Hey, welcome. Today, we're diving into something we all think we know hospitality. But this is a story with a huge twist. It's a journey that starts with a simple, charitable act of kindness and ends as a multi-trillion-dollar global industry. So, how on earth did a fundamental human duty transform into one of the biggest businesses on the planet? Let's find out. All right, so here's our game plan. First, we're going to talk about the feeling itself, that spirit of welcome. Then, we'll see how it went from being this ancient charitable practice to its very first commercial venture. From there, we'll trace the long road from rustic inns to modern hotels, and finally, we'll look at what it really means to offer a home away from home today. To really get this massive industry, we have to start at its absolute core, the spirit of welcome. It's a feeling we've all had, and it's the foundation for everything, and I mean everything, that follows. We've all felt this, right? This one little sentence just perfectly captures what hospitality is all about. It's that feeling of being genuinely cared for, of being put at ease, whether you're staying with a friend or a total stranger. The word itself actually gives us a big clue. It comes from the old Latin word hospitalitas, and the definition is so simple but also so powerful. It's the act of receiving and entertaining guests. It's not just about a quick hello. It's a real practice, an effort to connect. And this idea, this whole philosophy of creating a home away from home, well, that's the holy grail of the modern industry. Every single detail, from the smile at the front desk to the mint on your pillow, is designed to make you feel not just comfortable, but like you truly belong there. But here's the thing, that feeling of welcome, it wasn't always for sale. For most of human history, it was a duty, an obligation. So let's look at the huge shift that turned this ancient practice into a global industry. And here it is, the great transformation. For centuries, offering food and shelter to travelers was something you just did. It was a charitable duty, done by everyone from kings to local councils. And now, it's a massive commercial enterprise. This one pivot from being generous to being a business, that is the entire story of modern hospitality. So, where did this all start? When did someone first decide to charge for a place to sleep? Well, it all begins with the humble inn, which was quite possibly one of the very first services people ever paid for. Okay, so forget any romantic ideas you might have. The first inns were basic. We are talking a bench, maybe a cot if you were lucky, in the corner of a giant crowded room. There was zero concept of sanitation, absolutely no privacy, and yeah, you were often sharing that space with horses and other animals. It was rough. And this brings us to probably the most famous inn story of all time. But here's a really fascinating detail that scholars point out. When the innkeeper said there was no room, he might have just meant that the chaotic, crowded, communal room was no place for a woman about to give birth. The stable where they ended up might have actually offered more comfort, and for sure, way more privacy than the inn itself. So from those super basic, rough and tumble beginnings, the long journey to the modern hotel began. Let's trace how those communal inns slowly, over centuries, evolved into what we know today. Okay, so the Romans were the first to really build a network of lodges along their amazing roads. But after that, things kind of stalled for a long, long time. The real game changer was the Industrial Revolution. All of a sudden, way more people were traveling, and the rich folks demanded a level of comfort that the old inns just couldn't provide. This is when the hotel was born. It's actually named after the French word for a mansion. But even then, well into the 1800s in America, the idea of having your own private room was still a pretty big luxury. And if you want a really vivid picture of just how common this was, this little detail from the book Moby Dick is just perfect. A sailor checks into an inn, falls asleep, and wakes up to find he's sharing a bed with a cannibal. Now, yeah, it's a story, but it highlights a very real thing from that time. Sharing beds with complete strangers was just how it worked. And this brings us full circle, all the way from sharing a bed with a stranger to the modern standard of hospitality we expect today, which thankfully is a whole different world. Today, hospitality is a science. Hoteliers have checklists for absolutely everything. The front desk has to be clean and well lit, the lobby furniture has to be appealing, the lighting has to be soft. Just think about that compared to the communal rooms with no sanitation. The contrast is just mind-blowing. And yet, look at that last item on the list. It's the most important one. That intangible welcome spirit has to be there. And that leaves us with one final big thought. We've gone from a time when hospitality was this pure, benevolent act to an age of checklists and global commerce. So the big question for the industry, and for all of us, is this. In a world driven by profits, how do we make sure that original, ancient human spirit of welcome never, ever gets lost?